You watching The Walking Dead much these days?
I have not been catching up with it. I know my roommate goes to Walking Dead parties every single release.
Viewing parties?
Yeah, and I know you do viewing parties as well.
We do. We do one.
Are you still doing reactional videos? I haven't seen any of those.
No, we just did it for that one because we knew that was going to be really rough.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you don't mind if I spoil this week's episode.
Nah, go ahead.
So, a lot of this week focused on Rick running into this group of people living in a junkyard.
Mm-hmm.
Trash, just total trash heap, and they nearly get killed. And this turns out this is where Gabriel wasn't just running and ducking like he was under pressure from this group of people to steal from the group. And so you kind of suspect that Gabriel's like betraying everyone. It turns out he wasn't. They go to rescue him, and Rick, of course, at this point is trying to recruit as many people as he can to fight Negan's group, the Saviors.
Yeah.
And they find a group, and it's all these like people that they look malnourished. I mean, everyone's pretty lethargic. They're like almost zombies themselves, which is probably done on purpose.
Yeah.
And their leader talks really funny, like she'll repeat certain words in a sentence, and just kind of, honestly, she feels like more like she belongs in a sci-fi movie than Walking Dead. It's really odd because it's like, have you not talked to people? Have you forgotten how to speak properly? Because we're only like 2 years into the zombie apocalypse at this point in time, I think.
But I think like even like a couple months into the zombie apocalypse is enough to really mess with people. 2 years into it,
but you're living in a community,
Yeah.
I don't see, unless you're like, honestly, you're living in out in the sticks.
Yeah.
I can see your language skills slipping.
Yeah, but even with the it's true, language skills.
Or you just do like me and I just talk to myself when I'm alone.
I talk to the cat. Yeah, I talk to the cat. Cat talks back too. It's fantastic.
It's through their eyes. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
So what else happened? So as far as Rick's group goes, to avoid getting killed by this group, because this group is basically like, okay, we have you now. Give us stuff or we'll kill you. Basically, like, buy your lives back. And Rick basically says, like, well, we actually belong to Negan, but if you help us take him out, you can share in the plundering and, like, share in the profit of taking out the Saviors. And to prove it, I forget her name, they only mentioned once, but the leader of the group, she basically takes Rick up to the top of a trash heap and throws him into a pit where there's this walker who just has like this metal helmet like pinned on, so he's hard to kill, and he's got like just spikes driven all through him. Did you ever play Resident Evil 4?
Mm-mm.
So
I've
you don't know
clips.
Have you ever heard of the regenerators?
Huh.
Well, there's certain regenerators that basically, and regenerators like these like monstrous like constructed monsters that are very hard to kill because they keep regenerating. But there's one form of them that if they get close to you, they just have these spikes that just like shoot out of them, or they'll like grab onto you and like shoot spikes out and impale you. This is basically kind of like what this guy looks like. And like at one point, Rick like tries to push him away, and like a spike goes like right through his hand, and it's a grueling fight, but it was definitely very very well done.
No one gets tetanus.
Well, that's the thing. Like at the end, like he's like holding his like bloody hand up like this, and it's just like, so I guess tetanus doesn't exist now. It's not a worry or anything.
Just squirt some Purell. Oh yeah. All
like
right.
on Resident Evil 7, like, oh gosh.
Yeah, I love it. It's like you're like biting off your leg, and you're like, oh, my leg.
It's a good thing I got this first aid liquid that's a cure-all.
Yeah.
And they basically convince this group to help them. In other news, you see, the deal is probably between King Ezekiel with the kingdom and Negan's group is probably its tensions are starting to run high with that. So that's probably not going to last for much longer. And Richard, who's like the head of Ezekiel's guard, tries to convince Darryl to basically attack the Saviors to start a war. Basically attack the Saviors so that they will in turn attack the kingdom and get King Ezekiel to be like, all right, now it's time to fight. But basically have people killed. And the reason why Darryl didn't go along with it was Richard was hoping the Saviors would target Carol, who, if you know anything about, with the exception of Rick, Darryl cares about Carol the most. So I was the wrong person to target with Darryl around.
I'm going to pause you for a second.
Sure.
Because I want to bring up something that, one of the reasons why I've kind of lost interest with The Walking Dead is you haven't once, except for the just describing that pit with the zombie guy in it, you haven't once actually mentioned a zombie threat. It's no longer a zombie show, and it's more like Game of Thrones. Oh yeah, and there's zombies.
Well, because that's not the point of the show. Yeah. Even though the title is called The Walking Dead, of course, there's people that are just The Walking Dead's actually referring to the people that are alive. You do really they're just. I mean, zombie. Here's my deal. Zombies. I'm going to be brutally honest. They're boring.
Yeah.
As a horror vehicle, there's a reason why until before The Walking Dead you didn't have a series based around them, because they're boring. Yeah. They do one thing and that's it. They're the most basic horror creature / device.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And they get creative with them. With this one, we haven't had one that's got a whole bunch of spikes through them to be a threat. Every episode, they do make it a point to at least have someone be attacked or them having to defend themselves against the walkers. But we are to the point where, the main concern is other people.
Do you feel that they're just trying to perpetuate a plot so that they can keep this cash crop going, or are you genuinely as consumer entertained? Are you can't wait for the next?
I am more engaged in it than I have been for the last 3 seasons.
Okay.
Negan arriving has breathed new life into it, and he's not a walker.
Yeah.
He's a person who has basically come into the fold, and he's not were you watching it when the governor was doing things? So the governor, he tried to do the whole...
The governor in the graphic novels was so much more hardcore.
Yeah, he was
he was crazy.
But he also had been through a lot more too.
Yeah, that's true.
But he tried to do the Two-Face thing and be oh, I'm really a good guy, and then when it comes to dealing with Rick's group, he's I want you to surrender. Yeah. Negan comes in and he's just give me half your stuff, and I'm just gonna kill someone that you care about to prove my point. He brings in this whole new element where this kind of may sound crazy, but he's kind of like a Sephiroth character, because we were just talking about Final Fantasy. Yeah. The thing I love about Sephiroth in Final Fantasy is that he is so unpredictable when he's on screen. When I first played through the game, I didn't know what he was going to do. Yeah. And that's what made, whenever he was on screen, everything's so tense. When Sephiroth shows up, it's just the whole mood changes. And the same thing applies to Negan. Negan, with the exception of the episode, they had an episode where he's Carl goes to kill him and he doesn't, but Negan doesn't kill him. It was kind of a weird episode, and you kind of see him start to soften towards Carl. With the exception of that, every other person he interacts with...
I saw that episode where he was with Carl, and he told him to take off his patch. And never wear that. Don't wear that ever again.
Right.
Yeah.
And he kind of takes on like this father role, and it humanizes him a little bit. But other than that, like when he's dealing with someone, even his own men, you don't know. Like you feel like at any moment, like he could be, he'll say a line, and the next thing that could happen is he's either going to take his bat and just bash their brains out, or he's going to laugh it off, and you have no idea which one. But either it could go either way in your head, and it would make sense.
That kind of authoritarian dictatorship is. It always ends with like, you know, him being overpowered by the lower class. Like he's gonna fall, and in that aspect, does it feel predictable in a way that you kind of know what's gonna happen before it happens, or do you feel like there's still a lot of surprise to be had?
Oh, I think there's still a lot of surprises. Like because I try to stay away from the comics as much as I can, because that could or could not be spoiler territory at this point. Yeah. But still, I hear certain things, and it does seem like.
Real quick, my favorite part of Final Fantasy VII with regards to Sephiroth is, you know, Sephiroth is a badass, and you know that Sephiroth is super powerful. But I like the fact that they do a flashback from when Sephiroth was a good person, like, you know, on the inside, and that was before he gained all the like ultimate power. But he's still like super strong, and you got to firsthand, you know, as a weak Sephiroth, firsthand use him. You played as Sephiroth, thus, like, you know, you
except you didn't.
You did.
You couldn't issue him commands. He did what he wanted.
Could you not? You
could only control Cloud during that flashback, and if Cloud died, he would revive him. But if Cloud was fine, he would just attack the monsters.
Well, when he attacked, it was crazy.
Like you just see him do these damage totals. You're lucky if you get one hit on the creature that they're going after to kill.
It was such a good storyline. Like the way they did everything was perfect in Final Fantasy VII, in my eyes. Again, it's nostalgic. Like, I was reading like this. I was in elementary school, you know, when it came out. I think I was in like I might have been middle school. I think it might have been in either like sixth grade, and I was reading it like maybe like a third, fourth grade level. I just wasn't into reading, you know. And then Final Fantasy came out, and before you knew it, I was reading better than any other kid in class.
Because there's so much text in that game to get through.
Yeah, but I was engaged the entire time, and that was such a great villain.
He's my favorite villain of all time.
Yeah, and then in Advent Children, you know, it's entertaining and it's fun and everything like that, but you're like, come on, Sephiroth, show your face. And then all of a sudden, Sephiroth just
shows up.
Yeah. And you're like,
in an instant.
And it's the best fighting sequence ever animated. That is, oh man.
And it's even better in the complete edition.
Yeah.
Like when he just like shows you what he can do with that sword.
Yeah.
So great. Good. Like, this is why I can't wait for the remake. But back to Walking Dead. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of chances for surprises and for the plot to go in a direction that no one expects, even people who do follow the comics. So it does have that element to it. Like, it's like they got to a point where Rick just seemed too in control and too confident, and then Negan shows up, knocks him down like 8 pegs, and is just like, you eat dirt from this point forward.
I'm going to have you talking to your dead wife on the phone again.
Yeah, I'm glad we're past that.
That didn't last too long. That was like one instance in one episode, right? And then he realized, I'm crazy.
Then he started seeing her, and that kind of lasted for half a season.
Yeah.
Until he finally got, snapped out of it. And that's a lot of what the series is. It's like Rick getting in these slumps, and then he just has to get past it. Yeah. But what else happens with Darryl is he goes to meet with Carol, and I guess it's been like something like a dozen episodes since they've actually been together and like been in an episode. And I do have to speak out about this for a moment. I'm really tired of hearing people think that they should be a couple, because she looks the relationship they have is more like a mother-son relationship. Like she lost her daughter, and she like has become like the mother of the group, and she's become like a mama bear because she like used to be like really weak and very like intimidated. She was a beaten housewife, if you followed her since the beginning of the series. And she actually, in the comics, I know that she's dead and her daughter Sophia is alive. Yeah. So they switched them. Yeah. So it's interesting to see what her character does, but she has become like this mama bear where she's kind of like this ninja person who like it almost seems invincible. Like one of these characters that just seems untouchable. And she's in a slump right now. But when she sees Darryl, of course she welcomes him with open arms, and it's just, I like to see them hugging. I like to see them like they're a family. I don't want to see them as a couple. It just, at this point, it would seem incestuous because of the way that they've set up their relationship. I think there's one thing, like all the way back in season 3, at one point she like suggested to Darryl that they fool around. And he basically like laughs it off, like, you've got to be kidding me. But I think people took that and they're just like, oh yeah, totally, this should happen. And it's like, that's not their relationship.
Those same people are people you don't want to be hanging out.
Probably not.
That's gross, bro.
I don't want to read your creepy fan fiction.
I think that just like, introducing a relationship this late in the game, that's basically just like, foreshadow that they're going to kill one of them off.
Right, because they did that with Abraham.
There's no point, like, a show like this, there's no point in developing like an emotional relationship, with somebody, unless you're going to take that away from the audience. Right. Like, that's, the relationships are something that are brought in from the beginning.
Or if something naturally happens, like Rick and Michonne are now a couple. Yeah. Well, they're the two top warriors in the group. Oh, of course that makes sense.
The least realistic thing in the series, all right? Now, there's a lot of things, right, where it's like everybody seems to bathe regularly. Like, there's some characters that seem to bathe regularly, and there's
Maggie.
some characters that like never see water. Okay,
right.
Michonne, how come why come her braids aren't growing out yet? Like, she's not rebraiding or nothing. Like, her hair is immaculate. Like, throughout every single, for 2 years worth of time span,
she's looked the same.
Yeah,
and they haven't gotten longer.
There are no hair shops anywhere around them. She is not buying hair. Like, she's like that.
She cuts it with her katana when you're not looking.
Well, cutting with her katana. Like, I don't know if you know how braids work.
I know when you cut them, they're.
No, well, you buy the packages of hair. And then you braid it into your natural hair and braid it down.
I don't think those are unnatural.
Huh? You think those are natural braids?
Yes.
I don't know, man.
I think so. I think that's the implication. I know for the actor, I know that's a wig for the the actress.
I'm just saying that those braids are immaculate every single time.
See, I don't care. That's kind of like complaining about, like, wow, this character, like, they're wearing the same outfit every single episode. Like, gee, Simpsons, get realistic. Like, there's certain things that, you just kind of like, if you notice, you're paying too close attention to certain things.
I guess Michonne, in my opinion, Michonne's probably, now that I'm an adult, I don't have crushes anymore like I used to when I was a kid. I'd say Michonne is probably the only...
Comes closest.
She's the only actress that I look at and I go, I could see myself being married to Michonne. The character.
I think they call that a waifu at this
waifu?
Point. Yeah.
Waifu?
Waifu. The term comes from anime, like, when you just get infatuated with, like, a female character. And
Michonne, I think that if the show would focus more on Michonne, I'd be more inclined to watch it.
Well, she has become a major focus.
Okay.
She's had some instances where she's gone off and done stuff that, like, Rick's not okay with.
I I absolutely love her. I think she's like the greatest character ever. Like,
yeah,
she is the most capable, most powerful. You know.
And
like
I love the fact that she uses a sword. Like in a zombie apocalypse, a sword makes the most sense.
Yeah, you know, I like and she's like the most sensible, strong black woman. You know, and like she's
not an annoying character. She's not a stereotypical character. No. And the thing is, like, she's not robotic like she used to be. Like, I'm glad that her character developed to the point where she cares about everyone just like everyone else does.
Yeah.
And she naturally became part of their group. Like nothing seems forced about her character. And that's what annoys me about Fear the Walking Dead. Like you see that I don't know if you've seen it, but
no, it just seems like I don't know.
The mom of the group. I can't think of her name. Her name escapes me right now because I'm not watching it. But every single time the Talking Dead comes on, they're just like, oh yeah, she's a strong female character, and it's like, yeah, duh, because she's been like written that way on purpose, and like it's just so forced. It's not, there's nothing natural about her being a leader, and like they're hinting at like her having a dark past, but they haven't done anything with it so far. So it's like, as far as I'm concerned, that's useless for you to hint at something you're not going to do anything with.
Michonne came onto the scene with the jaws ripped out of her family, so she can carry them as pets, smelling of dead zombie, so that other zombies would just like not even notice her. Right. And she showed up like,
you know, that wasn't even the same actress when she first showed up.
Really?
Yeah, that was like one of the stunt people dressed up as her with the giant hood on, and before they revealed. But like, I remember everyone like getting psyched when she showed up, because I was at the end of season 2 when you just saw her at the very end saving everyone's favorite character to hate, Angie, I think her name was, the blonde, that no one liked for good reason. But yeah, that was incredible. And I want to say that's about all that happens. Oh, the important thing in this episode, I think the most pivotal thing that's going to have a great ripple effect later on. Darryl has the chance to tell Carol that Glenn is now dead, Abraham is now dead due to the Saviors. Because Darryl asks Carol, they're having a conversation in her little house, and he's like, hey, why did you leave? And she's like, well, I had to. I felt like I was just going to be driven to kill more, and the more that I kill, the more I lose myself. Like she's gotten very introspective about killing others. But then she's like, I know that if anything happened to anyone there, that I would just continue to go down this path, and then I wouldn't be myself anymore. And almost to like face that head on, she asks Darryl, like, what happened? Did the Saviors come? Is everyone okay? And Darryl kind of struggles with it, and then he just goes, the Saviors came, made a deal, everyone's fine. And of course, like, you see her relieved, but that's going to have major, implications later, as far as he just downright lied to her. And he lied to her. I want to say Morgan talked to Darryl and basically said, I know why you lied to her. Like, you don't want to see, that she would have just gone off on her own and tried to take on the Saviors by herself. Yeah. So I'm not saying he shouldn't have, but that's not going to end well later on.
Yeah, I would understand that though. I mean, yeah, you got lied to, but at the same time. And
Darryl, he's not he's a well-developed character. He's not a deep character. Yeah. So he can like basically only do one of two things.
Yeah, he's not like he's what's the right way of phrasing it? He's not deep as in like he puts a lot of thought into things. He
doesn't overthink anything.
He's analytical. Like he sees this is the objective. These are the steps we need to go through to get to the objective. He makes up his
mind within like 10 seconds of what he's about to do.
He's not thinking to himself like, okay, what are the pros and the cons, and how do I truly feel about this? He's just like, there's a sandwich over there, there's a zombie here, kill zombie, get sandwich, done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of the appealing aspects of his character. So I would give this episode probably a 9 out of 10. I didn't have much issues with it. The pacing of it was done really well. The Walker encounter in this episode was done really well with like Rick basically, and how he beats it is he basically like buries it in trash so that it can't move anymore, and then he takes a glass thing and like cuts its head off. So really well done. Makeup was amazing in it, and none of those.
That's good. That's something that I've been hearing complaints about lately. It's just like how basic they've been making the zombies, and like they haven't been like putting the time and energy into the makeup and the design of the zombies like they used to in the earlier seasons.
I would disagree. I would say, when they have like last episode, they had a scene where it was a herd of them.
Yeah.
And you didn't really see any of them up close, and when they were mowing them down, it was all probably just like CG effects and stuff like that. But that has to be done during for certain scenes, like when you have hordes. When they're just being attacked by a few of them, I feel like they do go above and beyond and try to come up with better designs for them, and they are getting more and more decayed as the show goes on too.
Slower. Do they feel like they're slowing down to a crawl?
They definitely don't seem to be as active as they used to.
Because World War Z explains it like the multiple phases that you have with zombies. They explain it in 3 phases. And I think they do it in the Zombie Survival Guide too. Max Brooks is a good writer. Mel Brooks' son, and I think that's fantastic. But I'm sorry.
Isn't also like his other son is come on, what's his name?
I don't know.
Who's in There's Something About Mary? Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller's also Mel Brooks' son.
No. Not Mel Brooks's. Ben Stiller is Jerry Stiller's. Like
I'm pretty sure.
Is Jerry Stiller and Ben Stiller. But Max Brooks, his description of
you're right, Jerry Stiller.
How
I thought all the time, the whole time that okay, yeah, that makes sense.
How
I don't know why I thought that.
The zombies decay. At first, like just full muscle mass. Like, you're infected, you are a human, you are all of a sudden hungry for other humans. You're gonna sprint and run, but what happens when you move in general? Like, when you run, you're tearing your muscles.
When you are operating,
yeah.
When you're pushing yourself, you are tearing your muscles apart.
You eat protein.
And since you're a zombie, you don't have the regenerative.
You're not digesting the food. You're literally just like eating it, and it just like
filling your gut.
Exactly, until your gut explodes or just like pushes, however. But you're not actually using your organs anymore. So you're not digesting the food, you're not taking the proteins, you're not rebuilding your muscles. So over time, just walking around is going to tear at your muscles. And
you're not sleeping.
Deteriorate, yeah. So over time, like, the zombies aren't going to be able to sprint. They're going to be walking. They're going to be clunkier, and they're
lose coordination.
Yeah, lose muscle mass. And the thing about the zombie apocalypse is when you get to the stage that you're at now, where it's been a couple of years and you've got colonies of people, you have no fresh hordes of zombies. Unless if there's like,
and how they do in Walking Dead, when you die,
yeah,
you become one unless you get a head wound.
Yeah, but let's think about how many people there are
that are still living.
Yeah, exactly. How many people? Even then, you're not going to have very many fresh corpses.
True.
So the majority of the corpses are at this stage, like they should be like basic.
And the community will take. Everyone knows you turn, so everyone is like, okay,
it's
you
a
die.
Burial ritual kind of thing.
Yeah, we stab you through the head.
And So you're not going to have fresh corpses. And eventually you get to the point where the corpses aren't even going to move. They're just going to... And if there's any kind of activity, you're not even going to know because...
Yeah.
Because they're just, you know, they
and
decay.
They'll eventually just...
Limbs will fall apart, you know.
Although the Walking Dead walkers seem to have, like, amazing resilience. Like, the first walker you see is, you know, the woman that's, like, there's half of her in the very first episode. Like, that's crazy
and
how that works.
That's the thing is, like, when it comes to your muscles, if you do not require... Because there's no science behind it. You require blood supplying oxygen to your brain so that it can use that oxygen to power, you know, your neural network to tell your muscles, you know, to flex and do all that stuff.
Right. In reality, if their internal organs weren't working, let's just say that you get turned into like this very base version of a human being. 30 days, man.
But if there was
you would starve.
If there was some kind of odd anomaly or something that that allowed the human brain to, you know, just generate electricity without the use of, then all your bodily organs and stuff, you know, they would basically just be there for regeneration purposes and not for, you know, actual process.
But they're not functioning anymore.
Yeah,
you know.
But that's because, like, you wouldn't technically need your lungs, you wouldn't need your heart, you wouldn't need blood or anything like that if there was something that kept your brain lit up.
Yeah.
You would still, you know, like, I mean, you'd still build acids up in your muscles, though.
Your brain uses fat, believe it or not. So that what it would actually start to do is all your body fat would be gone away first, and that's kind of, I guess, how they become gaunt, over time too.
Yeah.
It's funny to think about.
Yeah, zombieism is like the easiest to disprove.
Well, yeah.
Zombieism. When you think about it, like a long-term zombie apocalypse is the least feasible thing ever.
Yeah, and then winter comes along, and what happens?
They freeze.
Yeah, they're gonna slow down, which never seems to happen.
What happens? Yeah, well, they're gonna freeze. Like, they're gonna be
like
out
fish.
there. They have no body heat, nothing. So they are, like, as soon as it gets below, you know, 30 degrees outside, which I don't know if you looked outside ever, but that happens
a lot.
Yeah, like, as soon as that happens, they're gonna freeze. And what happens to biological tissue when it freezes? It pops. It just
it deteriorates even faster.
Like on a cellular level, like the cells are damaged. That's why we can't cryogenically freeze things and bring them back. So after the first freeze, you know, like the majority of zombies are just gonna be dead anyways.
I like Walking Dead.
I like listening to you like Walking Dead.